Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, it's the first video filmed in the PSGF. It is a gloomy, rainy day here in Minnesota. And all out there, we're getting a lot of great moisture for the plants. But I am dry inside where I get to work on a maple tree today from the PSGF. Really excited to be inside here. It is a great day for watering all our plants, but I get to still work on my tree while it's still light out, and this is fantastic. So we're going to talk about this trident maple and then work on my big one in a little bit. I'm checking my app to see if my power is working. I still have 74% of power from the solar panel, or the power station rather, 74% charged. No sun out today, so I didn't increase. I only lost a little bit because I have a few things plugged in. I have the fan plugged in case it gets too hot, which today it didn't happen. And I've got this thermometer just taking not even 1 watt. It shows 0 watts going out and 0 watts going in. So I should stay pretty neutral for a long time, but it will drain some of the juice just from having those things plugged in. We're at 57 degrees in the PSGF. So it is very comfortable working conditions, so here we go. Before I work on the trident maple though, I've been holding on to this envelope for a couple of weeks here, and I hope it's not time sensitive. Thanks to Tom for a grow and clip bonsai for seniors, and he sent me a little mail. So we're gonna see what Tom sent me. Thank you so much, Tom. One of the nicest guys on the planet when it comes to bonsai and just good people. Oh boy, here we go. David. Enclosed are some catalpa tree seeds for you to try growing. Since the pod's developed now, this is a good time to plant for winter, cold, so seeds have that period of cold. As a bonsai, the leaves are smaller. Something different, Tom. Catalpa tree. Oh boy, look at that. I gotta open that up and see inside there. I hope he has directions for me. Oop, something just flew out of there. There's a catalpa seed right there. So, looks like we have these sheaths of plant. And that right there, I wonder if that's one of the seeds. There's many of those in there. A whole bunch of those. And then there's one looks like kind of like a stick in there. That must be one of the branches to show future what it's going to look like. Tom, I may have to consult with you on this one and how we're going to take care of this. We'll do some research. Thank you, Tom. That's fantastic. Hopefully more seeds inside the pod. Well, there's part of the answer right there. Hopefully there's more seeds inside the pod than what I'm seeing there. But yeah, we can put those and plant those. And I'll have to do a little research so I know how to take care of those. Thank you, Tom, from Grow and Clips Bonsai for Seniors. And fabulous. It's raining outside, but we're in the PSGF and we're working on our very first tree in here. This one I'm going to show you, and then we're going to bring in the maple. So let's take a peek at this tree here. So this is the tree I've been working on with Mr. Peter T. And this is one of those things that we try to tell newcomers to bonsai that in the beginning it's not going to look like a bonsai tree very much at all. So when I had the chance to work with Peter this fall, we talked again about the future of this tree. I have a pretty decent nabari on this tree. It's starting to flare out pretty nice. A little bit less of the roots on this side. We're hoping some new ones are growing, and that'll fatten up. This is potentially the front at the moment. You can see some of the scars that we did clean up a little bit. And this one's almost completely healed over, so a couple more years. This is a stub that we decided is just not grown anymore. We still could get one little bud down there, he thinks, so we're not quite completely gone. This was a cut back here. And this is the new branch that grew. So we're going to keep this one. This will be one of the new primary branches. And really, when we work on trees with Peter, he talks about one thing. You can check him out at PT Bonsai, Peter T. Bonsai, and check out his website and all his stuff that he shares with the world. And we talk about thinking of the future. We talk about the tree in stages. The trunk down here, this is number 1. And then your next primary branches, I believe, are 2. then when you go out further to the secondary branches and the primary branches, that's 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7 to the very ramified tips, right? And that goes up the tree and it goes out from the tree. And we're not working on the canopy of this tree at all. We don't really care about the canopy of a tree like this deciduous trident maple, until we know our first primary branches are where they are supposed to be, where we want them to be, and are they going to be a good branch, and we're going to thicken them up. So this one is going to run next year because we want this now to thicken up. This is a good first primary branch after this one. And this one also has a little bit of growth on here. There is some dieback up here, but we have these 2 branches. There's one in the back here, and one here. We want this to shoot out all next year, and we can get these branches growing. We got a big split here, a big thick primary branch, way thicker than this one. So this will be our main runner. So it's not going to be a sacrificial branch per se, although it could be, and we'll talk about that later. But this could go out and get thicker, and we might keep it. Well, let's talk about it right now. We might not keep this branch because look at between here and here, the first internode is over 1 inch long. Do we want that branch to start backbudding back here? Well, this trident maple is not going to backbud anywhere in this internode, but there is a small little weak bud or 2 right here at the base where this one grew, and more could grow. So this could be a sacrificial branch to thicken up the trunk, and we could get another branch that'll have closer internodes that we are more looking for. If I'm happy with the distance of this first internode, we can cut this back and then grow more. I've given this tip before when you're cutting a branch in the spring. We'll do that in the spring for you. But a reminder, next year, if this all shot up next year, you don't want to cut back to the 1 set of leaves. You want to cut back to the 2nd set of leaves. Otherwise, this set of leaves, this internode, will take off like crazy, and then those will have big internodes. So we leave this set of leaves and cut back to this set of leaves, and then this won't grow as big of internodes. Okay, so we don't want to cut back to that first set because then that'll be exploding with energy. I'm not going to touch this at all this fall. This is going to stay out here. We're done trimming this tree. I just wanted to show you. We're going to move this up here and let this shoot out like crazy and see what kind of internode lengths and branches we get over here. Same thing over here. We're down to the first set of leaves. We're going to see if we get some growth here and just let it go and see how long the internodes are. So again, I'm going to repeat this for all of you just because I think it's so important. We don't want to cut this branch all the way to this first set of internode here, this first leaves as the internode comes out here, because then this leaves right here, these branches will grow longer internodes because they'll be so powerful, full of energy after the fall storage of all the fertilizer I've been giving it. This will go crazy. We don't care if this goes crazy, the second internode, that can go crazy all at once because we really just want that branch. So all of this growth up here that goes crazy will slow this part down. Super important to remember that concept. All of this energy and growth is going to thicken up the branch, but it'll slow this internode down so it'll grow short, small spurts with closer internodes. So that's how we get a tree with the internodes in close. I don't care about all this growth. This is all going to be cut off someday. That's hard to realize when you start with bonsai. This branch is super weird and cutting across from back here. Look at that. It crosses over here. This was going to be used as a grafting piece of wood here. This was going to be something we were going to flip around and graft like right there, doing a thread graft. As a matter of fact, here's a black dot, and here's a black dot, and then there's one more black dot. Or is it just those 2? 1, 2, oh, 3 up here. And I learned this too. We can do a thread graft through this wound on the tree, and eventually all of that will heal up. We have 1, 2, 3 places we're going to drill a hole into next spring, and we're going to bring these branches around and do some thread grafts. So that's why we left this on. Now it's a little thick down here, but it's thin up here. This will lose all its leaves eventually here, and then we'll be able to thread graft that before the spring push or after the first flush of growth. So we're leaving some of these branches on. Here's another one. This will be used to come around here and do a thread graft. So there is the trident maple, and look, it's a stick in a pot and looks really atrocious right now, really, except for the nabari down there. That nabari down there is looking pretty nice. It's spread out really nice and looking like an older tree. So we're going to set this aside, and we're going to work on the big maple and try to apply some of these concepts I was just talking about. So I've got to move some camera equipment. I got to get the big box in here of the tree, and let's see if we can get to work on that. So here we have the big maple. Now it's a little big. We're going to have a workstation over here eventually here in the PSGF, but for right now, I can spin it around and not get too much damage on the tree. We are looking to get this tree set up for growth next year. So what I was hoping for was a bud right here, and we got a branch to grow right here. The branch got a little damaged from something, but there are 2 brand new buds ready to go right there. This will be a primary branch on this tree. And these are all growing from back here. So from this side, we have the chop right here, and we have all these branches back here, and this right here, we're gonna let that run next year, just completely run the whole year. We won't trim that one. Some of these branches now, they're thick and they're growing and they're divided, and we need to fix these and take some of these off. So this was the original branch on this tree. You can check out the playlist of the big one here. I'll link it in the description. I'll try to remember to get that going for you. And this was the original branch on here that was, kind of like these little ones. And I left that one on there knowing we'd cut this tree back. So that is a really good primary branch now right here. It's kind of off of this bump on the tree and kind of on the inside of a curve, but I didn't have any choice. That's where the branch was. But now that I got this one out here, this is kind of more on the outside part of a curve towards the top. We have a nice every other pattern, and that's pretty good. And we can whittle away with some of this chop if we decide to, because we have another branch on the other side of this chop. And this is a bar branch. We got left and right, but I needed some growth over here. So some of these are going to go. We might not keep any of them long term. So you can see it. Let's go ahead and defoliate. I'm not worried about losing these leaves anymore. If it's going to go into my cold frame, I want to make sure that I have room in my cold frame. When you have your trees with foliage in your plant rooms, that can gather at the bottom of your pots, and then you can have possibly some extra mold issues. So we want to make sure we can kind of get rid of a lot of our foliage. Of course, in the fall, we start to lose all the color of our trees, or the color changes, and we lose the leaves rather. That's a good thing. This one hasn't lost its leaves yet. But you can see it's kind of this really red burgundy color. It's kind of a fun tree, very unique, one of my darkest, reddest trees. And we're just going to cut off all of these leaves real quick for us. As I come to the final leaves of this tree, why am I defoliating now? Well, the leaves are going to fall off pretty soon anyway. We're starting to get to real cold temperatures. We might have our first frost of the year this coming weekend. Our first frost of the fall, I should say. And so leaves are going to start falling like crazy. So why do I defoliate? Well, I want to see what I'm doing, and I want you to be able to see what we're doing with this tree. So I'm going to put this in a pot next spring. It's been growing in the box for a couple, 2-3 years now. I've got a big bulgy base here. We can put the soil up to here maybe and cover some of that up. There is some hollow back in here. We're going to see how it looks and get it in the pot. This root right here might come completely off because it's coming over this other one. We may lose this root. We'll see what kind of roots we have down below. So that's going to be next spring's work. But now, as I talked earlier about the trident maple, we want to make sure that we are building our tree from the trunk up. So this trunk is big, it's thick. This was probably a grafted tree, a Japanese variety to a more local variety, so it's hardy to Minnesota. I could have put this in the ground, according to the nursery that I got it from, and we could have had a maple tree in our yard, a Japanese maple that would have survived our Minnesota winters. But there is the graft point right there. We have some discoloration, and I believe that was grafted there at some point. And now we have this good old maturing tree with some movement and some bumps, and it's going to be kind of fun. But we have our main branch that grew here. This is only in the last couple of years, and look at how that's subdivided and how it's growing. So we have to make some decisions. Now, as I mentioned a little bit earlier with the trident maple, we want all these really close internodes, and look at all these new branches growing here. So these all could become the new parts of the tree right here. This could become the new part of the tree. We've got all these branches here. We're only going to have one of them here. Now this one grows really close to the trunk. This one grows a little bit further out. This one goes more flat, so that goes more out and up. And this is more true for an older tree with the heavier branches, right? They're going to grow out and then they get up closer at the tip. But a lot of maple trees will do this right here. All of these trunks that grow straight up from the main trunk, then you get all these really thick trees. One of my neighbor trees, I've had pictures of that, I'll see if I can dig it up, that show all these massive, primary branches that are growing up, and they're thicker. These branches on the tree in my neighborhood are thicker than most of the trees that are just in my yard. They're so thick. And here's our new buds right here. So we do have every other, right, left, and kind of right, but these are a bar branch. So what are we going to do with this right here? I've got, look at all these branches. 1, 2, 3, which splits right there again. 4, 5, 6. 6, 7 branches on this. We don't want them all. Now this might completely come out someday to promote just this side and this side. Well, right away I have one growing right in here next to the trunk. I don't need that. We're going to get rid of that. Make this a little bit more of a gap. This one's growing up and out towards us, which is kind of an odd position and I don't like it, so I'm going to cut that one off and leave a little stub. Okay? Now I'm going to leave a little stub, although I probably don't have to because again we have one split right here, a split right here, and a split right here. This one again is coming more at us. If this is more the front of the tree, which it is one proposed front, even if it's in the back, I'm just going to get rid of this one and save these guys right here. So this was a leaf petiole, and this is a leaf petiole. We've got these two little ones right here, and then these two medium-sized branches. Which one will I keep? This one kind of goes straight up and then curves up a little bit. This one shoots just more up like this. But this one might be a really nice branch one day. It's going kind of straight up this way, and it'll probably curve up this way. Do I want flatter or do I want more up? Now, I don't have to make this decision today, but I do know one of these 3 branches here or this one right here will stay. But for now, I think I like the movement of this one outside of the trunk the most, right here. So I'm going to take the bottom one out right there. And so now I have this thick branch and this branch here and this little one out front. We'll see what that'll do this later on this year, or next spring. But the problem is this is at the base of this really big branch. So do we even want it there? There's a good chance we don't want it there. But the reason why I will keep it there for one more year until I decide is what's going to grow out here. I don't have any growth between here and here. That's a really big internode. And if I let all this grow, and I cut it back to this internode here, right here, this will grow super, super fast. So I wouldn't want to cut it right here. I'd want to cut it to the second internode where the second leaf was. I'd cut it here. So this grows like crazy and this slows down. Now I have this branch from this other section trying to grow and be pokey. Let's get rid of that right now so you can see a little better. So here's this big branch, but where's my closest internode? They're down here. So these two down here could be the future of this, this whole branch, and this could be cut off. This is a nice branch. And look, there's an internode right here at the base and then right here. So that's a super nice close internode, but there's even a branch growing right here. But if I don't want this one to grow too fast, I don't cut to here, I cut to here. Let's do that right here. We're going to cut that off right there. So this internode next year should grow super fast. And this one will slow down and maybe have smaller internodes so we can build this branch. But it's still pretty thin. But we still have to consider this internode. And this back here is still going to grow. So maybe that could be the future of this tree. But again, I don't want this internode to grow fast and have long internodes on these branches. These will grow wild and crazy. These will be shorter, closer together, so we cut it right here. Same thing here. Here's a curve right here to this branch. Nice movement from here coming this way. And here's the first internode. As a matter of fact, there's one back here. So here's two internodes pretty tight, and here's the next one. We cut this one right there. This will grow fast. This will slow down, and this last one back here will be even slower. And here's the last cut point. We can cut that even shorter. We know we don't want that. That's not going to be this branch. But again, here's that internode right here. And we might even get some more back budding back in here. Now this is a bar branch. So if this were the front of the tree, we've got this and this. So we probably don't want this one. We'd probably want to go for this one. Got this nice curve up here. It's curving up here, and we can have a nice branch. But just in case, I'm going to cut it there. So these internodes are small, and these go wild and crazy, and we'll choose a branch maybe next year. So that branch is done. And again, I didn't cut to the bottom internode, I cut to the next internode, so this will slow down in growth, and this will take off and go crazy, and these branches here will go crazy at this internode. This will slow down and make small internodes. Now we have this beast, which it is a beast. There's a lot, what I say, 6, 7 branches in there. Well, right now it's competing with this guy right here, but this one grows back in towards the tree, so I don't like this one. Right there, in towards the tree, I don't like that one. Now these two are crossing each other and competing But again, if I get rid of this back part of this branch, it grows this way and up this way. Now it's not competing so much. So one of these two branches could work. Which one? I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm going to cut this front one out entirely. So then I'm left with this one that splits down nice and low, but it's kind of got a little bit of a knuckle there. So maybe we don't want this close one onto that knuckle. We've cut down from 3, 1, 2, 3, down to 2. I chose that one so it's less competing with that one. And then in here we have this one trying to grow inside. We cut that one off. And again, one of these two will probably go, probably the back one if we're going to keep this branch. But I don't know if I'm going to keep that yet. Here's a nice thin branch, but it's kind of coming out us as the viewer. But if this is the front, that could be a nice texture branch back here. Like this one is growing out this way, this one grows out that way. It's a nice looking branch. So this one I'm just going to leave alone. And again, here's the internode. Here's the internode. Now this internode right here, that's still a little long. I don't like that as much, but maybe a new branch can grow there anyway. That's pretty thick in there, so we still have too much going on. So then we have these back two branches, and look how curvy and odd they are. There's a fan of 3 here, 1, 2, 3. Well, we would only want 2, and they fan in an awfully odd direction. I could certainly cut this back to here. That's the shorter one. And here's the internode here to cut that one shorter, because there's an internode down here, internode here, and an internode there. So I probably could cut it down to here. Here's the internode, here's the first one. But look at how far that internode is. That's too long probably for this tree. Plus I still have 1, 2, 3, and this one splits nicely in 2. And they kind of swoop around back over this way from the tree. So I don't know that I want that one at all. So that one's coming off. And that one I can cut a little bit more true to the trunk because I got plenty of growth here. This strong growth will heal that up really fast, so I'm not worried about that. And we've got that a little bit tighter now. So there's our tree. Now these two are still congested up here. So I don't like how these two are close together. So I'm hoping that I'm going to keep maybe this branch down here instead. So this whole branch, everyone, could go bye-bye, and I won't even use it, and this will become the main branch. Why? Because it's further down, it's more out here, and can grow this way, and it won't compete with this branch as much. Otherwise, I cut it all off back here, and we have this nice curvy branch, and we can cut off some more of this chunkiness right here. So, what to keep, what to get rid of. This is a smaller branch. This one splits already nicely right here. It's a decent branch here with nice division up here. Here's the first internode, here's the second, here's the first, here's the second, we're good to go there. But now there's a third one back here. Maybe we don't want that one. But here's what I'm going to do. Well, if I cut this one off, this only has one internode, everybody. So these are going to grow really fast and maybe big internodes on there. So that might not be great. But guess what? This internode is already better than this tree right here. This branch here, there won't be an internode to back there. I'm actually going to cut this one off. I think it's the better move for right now. And I've got this main branch here. This is going to grow here. We can slow this growth down next year by cutting it sooner if we want, because I'm not worried about thickening this branch up. This can thicken it up, but I have a nice split there. So again, if we get rid of this back here, we've got a branch that curves up over here, this up here, back there, and there. There's still 3 here. So which one of these am I going to save? Well, this one has that curvy look. I don't like that. But I have nothing to cover the tree over here. I'm hoping I get some back budding in here next year. Something is going to grow right there, and then I can cut this one off. So I could stop right there. I don't have to cut any more on this tree, and I probably would be good. Now, if you can see here, there's an internode right there. There's a leaf. So if that grows nice next year and grows more up, I can cut all this back, and then we have this curvy branch that can grow up here, and then we can get rid of this whole branch here. Or if this one is nicer and it starts to grow here, internodes this way, I can have it curve up this way and that way. We don't know until we see what the growth pattern will be next year. I know these are tight and not looking great, and I want a lot of growth on this side. So either I cut this back even more and risk it, or I see what happens next year and decide after the first flush of growth what I want to do. But there is the maple with some future potential. And again, I really see this whole section over here being gone. It's going to be this and this, but this has a lot of catching up to do. And quite frankly, to make them grow at the same time, if I got rid of this entire branch right here, look, I have these two right here and here. These are the future of this tree. This goes bye-bye. This starts to grow. These three will all be about the same size, and I let them completely run, and they'll develop the same size instead of having this monster branch over here and a really weak one over here. So if I was really bold, and I'm sure if Peter T was with me, he'd be bolder than I am, and he'd go ahead and cut some of these back. I am going to wait and see what happens next year because I want to repot it in the spring and I want this to kind of get some really good growth, and then I'll make that decision. And I think I can wait one more year before making that decision because I like this branch right here. I like this branch right here. I might be able to utilize those. And you know what? Because these are competing so much, we are going to cut that off. Oh, careful there. That internode is still intact. It's just like if I cut this a little bit shorter. There we go. Now I'm promoting the growth this way. And there's an internode right there and there, super nice and compact. And this will just die off here, and I'll be able to blend that in time if I even keep it. So there we have it. We have the big maple. It'll be fun to see what happens next year. A little bit of cut paste, just so these can heal up a little bit better. Again, next year with all the energy, when this pushes out all the growth, these are going to heal up super fast. And right now, these two branches dominate. And if I see signs of weakness on this branch, I can cut back and let all the energy go to there. But I think we're going to be just fine. So these are going to be died off. Shouldn't worry about those. So there we go. Cut paste on the big maple. The big one, as I've affectionately called it over the years. A new pot in the spring. New branch right here to start getting this tree to go out this way. Maybe a couple more buds would be wonderful right there and there. And if not, of course, we could always try to thread graft down the road. Can't wait to see this in the big Sarah Rayner pot that I got this year from Sarah. Hey, guess what? That's going to wrap up the first video inside the PSGF. Yeah, I believe video number 351 for me. I think about that, that's kind of crazy. But 351 starts a new era of working in the PSGF on a lot of my trees. So hey, take care of you, take care of your bonsai, and we're going to see you very soon right in here working on some more trees. Take care, everybody.